But anyway, the first line is good afternoon and welcome all muggles. My name is Paula and I'm a librarian at the Champlain College Library. And on behalf of the library, I want to thank you for coming to this astrology workshop presented by our guest journeyman astrologer, Erik Kaarla. The workshop is one of the many events the library has featured in conjunction with the Harry Potter's World exhibit. Before the exhibit goes to its next location, though, don't miss Steve Waymeyer's talk, My Demon Can Beat Up Your Patronus. Visions of the magical second self in Western fantasy literature, art, mythology, and folklore that happens on Thursday, October 7th from 12 to 1:30 in Alumni Auditorium. And improv mystery theater taking place in the library on Thursday, October 14th from 6 to 8. And the Harry Potter Going Away Party, yes, on October 15th from 5 to 7. And now, a little about Erik. In addition to his role as journeyman astrologer, Erik is an English instructor and educator with experience in teaching music, English, and specifically writing in a variety of environments, including the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth, Pine Manor College, Burlington College, Community College of Vermont, Champlain College, and St. Michael's College. Erik enjoys writing creative nonfiction, and he's also engaged in covering local education issues and trends, and is the proud dad of two little monster girl twins who are ripping the condo. Girl and boy twins who are ripping the condo apart.
Yes, yes, they do a good job because they're Aries. We'll get to that.
He holds a Master of Arts in Professional Writing from the University of Massachusetts Dartmouth and a Master of Education from the University of Vermont. This afternoon, Erik will introduce the basics of astrological thinking and interpretation through concentration on the essential 12 astrological signs. Those of us participating will also begin working on the basics of our personal chart interpretations. So, in the spirit of the magical world of Harry Potter and with great enthusiasm, I welcome back my friend and colleague, Erik Kaarla.
Thank you, Paul. Wow, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Well, thanks all for coming out on such a rainy day, folks. I really appreciate it. Can I ask how many people know something about astrology? Good, good. So mostly we know some things. One of my intentions today is to kind of talk about different systems of astrology, and to answer that question that many people put forth, is astrology something I should believe in? Is it something that's true? It's a very difficult question to answer. I don't like to answer that question because there are so many different systems of astrological thinking that to answer it in any definite way I think is very difficult. The other thing I would like to put forth is, for me, reading about astrology, studying astrology, if you will, and kind of going into that whole world, I like to look at it as something fun to do and something that promotes healing for myself, and I think it can promote healing in other people. It's a way of looking at the world. It's a way of interpreting things in perhaps less heavy, realistic way than we're used to doing. So I tend to keep it on this level of it's healing, it's fun, it's okay. I don't have to defend whether I believe in it or I just like it. And hopefully after today you'll have some of that same sensibility. Astrology, we hear a lot of different things about. I think most of us will see an astrological forecast of one of the 12 signs in a newspaper or a magazine. Burlington Free Press example up there in 7 days. Brenda, I am a Libra, that's why. But basically this whole system, I don't know if anyone has ever heard about where this whole sun sign astrology came from. Has anyone heard perhaps when this system took off? This was developed in Britain at one point to sell newspapers. So this whole idea of we have to sell more newspapers, what would involve people in the news, what would make people buy into getting newspapers and following it. Someone devised this idea of, let's do sun sign astrology. Let's write 12 predictions for what different signs people are, and they'll have to read it. And in fact, it does become an addiction for many of us. That being said, this is what you kind of need to know in order to get something deeper out of astrology. And that is your personal horoscope or chart wheel, your natal chart. The day you came onto the planet, literally up to the minute. Got to know that information, create a chart, and we'll talk more about that later today. But if you don't know that, you could read one of these predictions, but it's 1/1000th of perhaps something that's relevant in astrological thinking. I don't read those predictions ever because it just doesn't seem worth it to me. It's kind of a buzz thing to sell newspapers, sell media. There are a lot of astrologers out there, there are a lot of astrology writers, and it's very difficult to know who's good and who's not. So I tend to stay away from that kind of thing. So again, even within the astrology predictions that we might read, for instance, this is today's prediction for all. Do we have any Libras in here? Do people know their sun sign? So for she and I, we were going to have, this is our prediction for the day. You'll act in spite of your fear, or perhaps because of it, by hurling yourself headlong into the very thing that causes you anxiety. You'll prove to yourself that there's nothing you can't do. So that could mean a lot of things. You came to this lecture, maybe you didn't want to. I'm doing the lecture, maybe I'm really scared right now. So some might say, wow, that's really accurate. There are other people out there who say these are written in general format, so it can match any situation. And I'm not here to say that this is fantastic prediction. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not. Notice then the difference. This is a prediction for a week by this guy Rob Bresney, who writes for 7 Days, and he has a great website, and he does a lot of different things, writing, poetry, all kinds of different sciences, and he tends to write kind of about the vibe for the week of a particular sign. And it's quite different. He'll come up with some kind of focus that he feels that sign is going to go through at the particular time. So even when you're reading these predictions, you don't know, is it for an hour, for the week, for a month? So that's yet another variable within this whole system of trying to understand what is going on. Personally, for myself, I like to think of getting the call to understanding astrology and enjoying astrology to some extent. It's not that kind of thing that anyone is going to go to the library or take a class in necessarily, unless they kind of find it. I found my interest in astrology. A former partner of mine, she gave me this book, The Complete Astrologer. This is one of the older versions, but it's this same book that we see on the right slide, Parker's Astrology. And it was just fascinating, and it kind of just stayed with me. And one day, I started to see the world a little bit differently as an influence of this book. And of course, she had taught me a lot about astrology. And then it just is like, now I consider it an illness. And my wife says it's definitely an illness. So it's a way of looking at things that it just kind of opens up kind of another window. It's like having an iPod on shuffle continually playing. And I'm not going to try to put that illness into you, but maybe you'll catch a little bit of a cold. And that's what I'm hoping to do today. Is anyone familiar with Joseph Campbell? Hero of a Thousand Faces, this idea that we're all connected by similar myths, and generally speaking, this idea that we all are on some kind of a journey, hero journey. Perhaps we hear a certain call, a certain mission. And I like to think for myself that this kind of feeling of getting the call was this interest in astrology for me, and it kind of opens up a whole bunch of other worlds. As far as how weird astrology goes, you can go as weird as you want, and it's really marketed heavily today, and it's made to be very consumer-oriented. Sexual astrology, right? Clearly that book sells more than all of the other drier astrology books. You don't have to be a genius to know that. Nasty astrology, there's like a whole thing of astrology now where it's as nasty as you want it to be. Yet there's still some interesting books coming out. There's a new book called Sun God, and in it, essentially, the author talks about the sun being a live, breathing, breathing in a sense, but an alive organism. The sun is an actual being, and it's controlling us and the universe. So you can get as weird as you want in astrology. Lots and lots of books come out every year, and it's always changing. And I find it to be quite fascinating in that way. You can study it as much as you possibly want. Just the one thing about Harry Potter, since I'm supposed to be connected with that, and I want to be connected with that. This idea that this is the astrological chart of Harry Potter on the left, and on the right is the astrological chart of J.K. Rowling. For those of you that know a little bit more about astrology, there are 12 houses in the astrological wheel, the Western system. We're going to talk more about that, and we're going to do a workshop thing a little bit later. And then there's essentially planets and angles that happen within this astrological wheel. This is Harry Potter's wheel. He was born on the 31st of July, 1980. This is J.K. Rowling's chart as well. And her rising sign, and we'll talk more about what that means, is the same as his, and in addition to the sun sign. And the weird thing for me is, and this is why I don't get enough chores done and why my wife is always in a bad mood, is I want to know, did she plan it that way? That she made Harry Potter have the same qualities that she has in her astrological chart? So does she know astrology and she put that in on purpose, or did it just happen? If it just happened, that is really weird. So that's, I think, a very interesting thing to look at. A lot has been written about the astrological influences in the book and kind of about Harry Potter's hero journey and how at different ages through the series he undergoes different things, all which can be interpreted astrologically. So a big question, if you're a Harry Potter enthusiast, and the big riddle there is, did she do that on purpose? Does she know about that? Has anyone read about J.K. Rowling and astrology? Because I haven't spent an afternoon Googling that yet, but I'm sure I will at some point. That would be interesting. Did this just happen, or did she plan it that way? So astrology is clearly in the world of Harry Potter. Let's talk a little bit about the systems. Western astrology is probably what we're most familiar with. There's a lot of different things going on in Western astrology. But I would basically say that these are some of the larger concepts in the Western astrological system that most of the books we tend to see lying on coffee tables are about. It's an understanding of a person's character. That's kind of a focus of those 12 signs and how they fall into this astrological wheel. Essentially is going to give a sense of a person's character. And that's important in Western astrology. Seeing future trends and circumstances without trying to tell the future is also a Western system. Western astrology isn't so concerned with, well, tell me what's going to happen in 10 years. Chinese astrology is. It's a whole different system. Western astrology is also about interpreting 12 distinct areas of interaction within a person's, animals, things, or events, life horizon. Now here's the weird thing about astrology. So if I drop this page right now, I could actually do a whole astrological wheel on what just happened. And I'd have to work on it for hours. And that's a lot of work goes into that one act. So the interesting thing for me about astrology is you can go as big or as small as you want. But for those folks who say, well, astrology can't possibly make any reason of anything or has no probability of showing something real, it might be because it's so vast and huge. So if I can do an entire reading of just dropping of that, all of the life energies you folks bring in here in this room, the history of the college, your personal histories, all of that combines into some kind of crazy mismatch. What human could possibly know how all those things relate? So I often like to say to people who think astrology absolutely has nothing connected with reality or with any kind of real knowledge, I say it's so complicated and vast. There's no way that you could possibly use it to, for instance, bet on the right horse at a racetrack. That's not what it's about. It's more a way of understanding what's unfolding. So Western astrology, again, the 12 signs, the different characters of people, how these personalities tend to fluctuate with time. That's more the concentration in the Western system. Going to another system, if we do the Chinese system, again, there's going to be the number of 12 being powerful, right? 12 different animal signs. And supposedly Buddha blessed these 12 animals, and they all have different qualities. And therein started the Chinese astrological system. I guess it was the Tibetan system before it was the Chinese system. 12 different animals. How many people know their Chinese sign? Good, some of you do. Based on your birth year is the Chinese astrological system. So you have to know your birth year, then you're given this animal that identifies characteristics of that year. Chinese system is way about fortune telling. It's part of Chinese culture to kind of do this thing of where are we going in the future and how things tend to line up. Feng Shui obviously is part of their system too, getting the right energies at the right time. 5 different elements in Chinese astrology: metal, water, wood, fire, and earth, all having different qualities, different from the 4 qualities we have in Western astrology, which of course is fire, earth, air, and water. Prediction of future events is huge in Chinese astrology. And again, I think in Chinese cooking, Chinese cuisine, getting a balance going for the individual, that's what the Chinese system is all about. Welcome. So a little bit about the Chinese system. Very, very old system, has a lot of different qualities to it. Does it match with the Western system? It does and it doesn't. And as we get into it more, we can discuss that further. There are animal signs, 12 signs, 12 cycles. Does anyone know what year we're in right now?
Metal tiger?
The tiger, right. We're in a tiger year. And I think there's a quality attached to it. Is it metal tiger?
I think so.
The year of the metal tiger? That's supposed to tell us a whole bunch about the events that are going to occur on a worldwide scale. And of course, if you're a metal tiger yourself, you're going to resonate a lot in that way. We can talk about a lot more systems. Native Americans have an amazing system of astrology. I didn't want to get us all into that because I know folks want to kind of get involved with their own charts. Want to look at one more, that's Vedic astrology, aka Yodish astrology, coming from India. It's kind of the Hindu method. You can see their astrological wheel is totally different. It's highly specialized. The big situation with Vedic astrology is that it's not based on 7 planets and asteroids and that kind of thing as we do in Western astrology. It's actually based on the solar system, the stars, and the way they change. They track how the stars and the solar system change and change their computing that way. That is not the case in Western astrology. The orbits of the planets and those kinds of things that we read in astrological columns, those have changed since thousands of years ago. Western astrology doesn't care. It keeps pretending that all is aligned as the astronomers at the time set it up originally. So the Indian system, many people say, is much more precise, and it's based on the universe now as opposed to thousands of years ago. There's many other ways of looking at it. Also, it's very moon-based. The moon is a very powerful planet in Vedic astrology, where the sun is really the big emphasis in Western astrology. There's many other differences as well. Prognostication, or the knowledge of future events, is also large in the Vedic system. So if you're interested in studying any of these systems, I would say go for it. And if you're like me, you'll start seeing the comparisons and contrasts between these systems, making it, I think, fun in many ways, because all different cultures seem to have their own astrological thinking, and fun in a little bit of mental gymnastics, and in kind of enjoying that new knowledge as opposed to saying, well, I can predict, you know, whatever is happening here, or that person is a Gemini because they use 2 hands to do that. It's so much more complicated than that. So I would again put this idea out that astrology isn't necessarily this thing you can use. I definitely don't think it's that kind of thing. It's more this kind of magical, childlike way of looking at stuff and getting some enjoyment from that. So let's talk about the 12 signs. And since this is a workshop, we're going to go Western, all right? So we're going to go Western on this. We're going to talk about the signs. And let's just throw out some qualities. Starting with Aries. Those of you who know a little bit about this, if you don't know anything, don't feel obliged you have to say anything, but what are some things we hear about Aries? And I'm, again, not coming here as an astrologer saying this is how it is. but just some basic things that we tend to hear about people who are in the first sign of the year, Aries.
Controlling leaders.
Controlling. Are you married to an Aries?
No, I had an ex-boyfriend who was one.
Okay. Controlling. Controlling is a word. Other buzzwords?
Assertive.
Assertive. Are you an Aries, sir?
No.
Okay. Other words about that first
Fiery.
glyph? Fiery, right? Fire sign. The horn, the ram, right? This kind of head-butting action, going out with force. I'm always thinking astrologically instead of driving properly. I'm looking at those ram signs, which is it the Dodge truck that comes with the ram sign? So for me, I don't see the Dodge or read about the Hemi engine. That's less interesting than this Aries sign. And that's exactly it, this forceful energy that Aries tend to have. Lots of energy. They're not afraid to jump into a confrontation and initiate and kind of have that initiate power all the time. Not afraid to use it. Again, with astrology, I want to put out that these are neither good nor bad. So when we look at these and we say, oh, that person is emotional, that's not good or bad. It just kind of is. So these are qualities we're trying to look at. Anything else about Aries? Taurus. Next sign, going in order. What have we heard about Taurus? Are there any Taurus sun signs in here? Care to share qualities you've heard or ideas about Taurus?
Hardworking.
Hardworking.
Loyal.
Spoiled?
Loyal.
Loyal, yes. Loyal. I like that. Hardworking, loyal, set in a particular fashion, doesn't like to change a lot, but kind of uses a steady energy to keep going. We might say the story of the tortoise and the hare. The tortoise might be kind of a Taurian figure, sticks to the slow and steady wins the race, as opposed to the speedy rabbit. Any animal that Taurus is associated with that people can? The bull, right? So kind of the way the bull is, heavy, staunch, loyal, stays the course, all Taurian characteristics. We could talk a lot more about it, but I want to get through these lists first so we can get into some interactive stuff. Gemini, everyone's favorite sign. Step away from the Gemini. What do we know about Gemini?
Ambivalent.
Ambivalent, creative. The thing with Gemini, evidently, is this duality, two things, and maybe let's not stop at two things, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Lots of different people, supposedly, when people are of Gemini sun sign or they have this Gemini energy in their chart, they can change things up all the time. They're great communicators. They are kind of quicksilver in their mind and in their body. They know a lot about a lot of things. Notice I'm not listing celebrities because I want that to be part of, we're going to do a little homework assignment when we get to that. Celebrities and astrology seem to go hand in hand. On the one side, I think that's interesting because we see celebrities and we can kind of learn qualities and characteristics. We can actually look up their charts online. If you really don't have a personal life, you can do that until, from day one. You can keep finding out these facts and connections. And in one way, it's good because we see these people, we can kind of see those connections. On the other way, it kind of diminishes the power of astrology, right? It's kind of this celebrity worship. And I think since we're all part of American culture in whatever degree we are, we already have that thing. We love looking at celebs. So I'm not 100% convinced that's the way to learn about astrological thinking, is just know a celebrity sign. But it is one way. Generally, Gemini, great communicators. We're talking musicians, politicians. They do a lot of things well. They do things fast. They move around a lot. They're not any one thing. They're always changing. Cancer. Nurturing. Other operative words for Cancer, the crab. Cancer is the sign of midsummer, the summer equinox or summer solstice, I guess. Nurturing. Anything else?
Emotional.
Emotional. Hello. My wife is a Cancer. Yes, emotional. She needs me to be more emotional. Very emotional, nurturing. Number one love of Cancer tends to be food, right? Food, home comfort, this kind of thing. Being home, being comfortable in the home. Very important for a Cancer to feel that energy. Okay, let's keep going. Leo, coming right after Cancer. Leo, Napoleon Bonaparte, who I think is transcendent celebrity. Leo then, if we say Napoleon Bonaparte was a Leo, what qualities might we be looking at? Powerful, kind of the sun sign power. Leo is, how to put that, kind of the hottest part of the summer. That's when the sun is at its strongest, that kind of burning, scorching energy. Leo tends to be this prancing lion figure that has a lot of power, likes to be on the throne, kind of in control of things, is a great leader and makes you smile, but is still very much a leader. Bill Clinton was a Leo, is a Leo, I should say. I think we see that in his kind of manipulation of the press and the culture, but you still like him no matter what he does. It's like, he's a great guy. This is Leo, in charge, likable. Madonna, also a Leo. It's a known fact now that you can get a PhD in Madonna studies in some European colleges. So she is also past celebrity to an actual cultural piece. She's a Leo, right? So someone who's very innovative, but clearly exudes this exuberance and light. So Leo is very much that kind of figure. Then again, right after Leo, that kind of exuberant king or queen-like quality comes Virgo. Do we know anything about Virgo? So Virgo is what they say, they like to characterize, astrologers do, lady of the corn, right? This is when the harvest is coming in. The corn is ripe, and this is where you're kind of taking the best corn and harvesting that and leaving the rest on the ground. So Virgo is meticulous, very careful about things, highly organized, and is excellent at kind of separating what you don't want with what you do want. Virgo is very much into service. Maybe a certain profession for Virgo might be nurse. This kind of wants to serve, knows how to do it well, doesn't like to be on center stage like a Leo would be. Again, if we look at a Mick Jagger or a Bill Clinton or Madonna wanting to be center stage as a Leo, a Virgo would not want to operate like that. They would be behind the scenes taking care of things quietly with humbleness. Then we come to Libra. Libra, I think we're very used to that particular sign. I have a little bit of trivia about that. So I'm a Libra. October 5th, what is the most popular birthday in the United States? October 5th. So that's kind of weird. So if we, again, do this strange astrological thinking and we put that down, that the biggest energy, astrological people energy in the United States is going to be Libra, because there are more Libras than any other sign in the population. So this is the weirdness you can get to when you start thinking about astrology. Libra, the sign of the scales, obvious symbols that we see in the scale is kind of balancing, weighing out. Takes me a long time to leave the house in the morning, so I'm always kind of figuring out how I want to do things. That's very much a Libra quality. Not too much pepper, not too much salt, trying to kind of get it in between those things. Balancing things out is huge for that sign. Libra is right now, obviously. October is first today. What might be some qualities in October that we see in an astrological sign such as Libra? Kind of that balancing of day and night. We now have the same hours of daylight as we have nighttime, approximately. That changed, I believe, on the 23rd when we went into the autumnal equinox. So another thing with this Western system is we continually see parallel between these signs and the seasons they kind of represent. So Libra is, October tends to be mostly Libra birth month, although Scorpio begins at the end of it. Let's go to Scorpio, and Brenda, I'll ask you because I know you're a Scorpio, and I know you're an intelligent person, know a lot about yourself and the world.
Well,
what might you throw out?
Two of the things that I think of the most are passionate and intense.
Passionate and intense, right? Scorpio is described as a volcano, this volcanic energy that's about to erupt. Very passionate about life. A great healing sign. Astrology and healing, there tend to be connections often in Scorpios, this kind of healing energy that can often come about. Scorpio is often regarded as a kind of phoenix rising from the ashes. always will destroy something and create something new because they have a tremendous amount of energy. And we can go on and on. We won't mention sex at all, but I just did. Sagittarius, coming after Scorpio. And this one will be easy. I don't have to say much. What does Sagittarius look like? Or what is it supposed to look like on this
It's the hunter with
glyph?
an arrow.
It could be hunter. I like to think more in terms of it's the arrow. So a Sagittarius person might be just the arrow after being released from the bow. They're always headed for the next thing with determination. They want a next thing, and doesn't mean that they're necessarily a flighty person, though it can mean that, but they want new knowledge, new vision. They like, this is again sounding like celebrity astrology, which I don't want it to be, but they enjoy seeing new things, travel, learning large amounts of information, and then using it for some purpose. So Sagittarius tends to have that kind of energy. The other character associated with Sagittarius, of course, is the centaur. Do a little Harry Potter come around again, you know, the half horse, half man, or half woman, if you will. Though, are there female centaurs? Yes, and there are in mythology. So there again, kind of the half human, half beast. How does that work out? And Sagittarius supposedly also rules a part of the body, which is the legs and the hips. But then that centaur thing also playing out in that. Capricorn. I know we have two Capricorn. We have a Capricorn table. We messed it up now. But some things about Capricorn. Actually, we have two people who are born on the same day in the room.
And it's Christmas Day.
And it's Christmas Day. So, and this is not a setup. I didn't pay them to speak here.
But I don't know. I don't know what.
I thought they were kind of a lot like the Taurus, similar heads.
Right. So it's an Earth sign, and again, we'll talk more about this Earth sign. Capricorn. This glyph is maybe not as clear as often we see other portrayals of a Capricorn having the tail of a mermaid, perhaps, and a goat's head. And this idea of kind of climbing mountains and movement that way and then being comfortable in water. They're kind of an unknown quality. Capricorn is, in fact, very organized and a leader, capable of very difficult, hard work. But they can also change in many fashions. Martin Luther King, again, don't want to go to celebrity astrology, but he was a Capricorn. So, and again, since we celebrate his works here in Champlain every year, this idea of extremely organized, extremely hardworking, defying the odds in so many ways. And that's very much the essence of a Capricorn. We can go into many other qualities. But I do want to get to a little bit of interaction, so let's keep going. Aquarius. Do we have any Aquarians in here? We're supposed to be in the age of Aquarius, the hit song right from here. Aquarius then, I think the glyph is to portray water. The idea is that water is knowledge in the case of Aquarius, that Aquarians are here to bring us new knowledge, new inventions. They're very humanitarian. Supposedly they care about kind of large groups of people, humanity as a whole, as opposed to this kind of one-on-one dynamic. They're very inventive. Generally speaking, Aquarians are supposed to do kind of things in their own way and be innovators in that particular fashion. Finally, Pisces. Pisces then is, some folks, and actually the Parkers right in here, like to call Pisces the dustbin of the zodiac. Here's where it gets a little complicated. Many astrologers argue that Pisces has all the qualities of all the other signs because they're the last sign. They have their own nature, but they also have kind of elements of all of the other signs. Pisces, a water sign, supposed to be probably the most psychic and have a lot of intuition, very artsy, tend to live in this kind of ethereal, poetic world, can be kind of wishy-washy, but only kind of because they're in this, living in this artistic miasma of thoughts, colors, and those kinds of things. You have your poets, many of them who are Pisceans. Extreme emotion, I'm going celebrity again, which I keep promising I won't do. Kurt Cobain, very much this Piscean figure on a $100 guitar, became this incredible icon. Very emotional. You hear a Nirvana song still today. It's just that pure emotion. Obviously, from his personal life, I think if we have heard about his life, you can see he got a little lost in there. So there's that emotional preponderance, which is a huge load in the Piscean. So these essentially are the 12 astrological types. Now, these 12 types then are located in all of those different houses of the zodiac wheel. And essentially, as these go into those different houses, they're going to give different qualities to the different houses. We're going to look at what the houses are in a moment. Essentially, then, Western astrology relies on these 12 signs to a huge degree, and there's no end to how you can start looking for the qualities of these signs in people you know, in seasons, in all kinds of different areas. But why don't we do a little interactivity right now? And I want to do something with computers a little bit later, so let's stay in the room and do this. Speak to the person next to you. Maybe we can set up more functioning tables if we need to, and see if you can find out their birthday and find out just what sign they may be. And this is just the sun sign stuff, and we're going to talk more about it. So whenever their birthday is, there's a particular sign they should be. If you don't know enough yet to even go there, why not walk out of the room, grab a computer somewhere on campus, and just type in your birthday and in Google and say and write astrological sign, and you will find out your sign. And let's take about 10 minutes for this, and I want everyone to know at least this sun sign thing. When they were born, what astrological sign was on that day.
Just the day.
Just the day, so we're not going deeper than that. So if you know the day, for instance, if you were December 5th, you'd write December 5 astrological sign, and you would get your Sagittarius out of it. But we probably need computer access for that.
Okay.
Got a couple of people in here with laptops.
So laptops will work. If you just want to
get on the network here.
the nearest computers might be upstairs. So everyone should at least get their sign right now.